have to keep hoeing the garden because all the weeds start coming up this time of the year. So if you keep hoeing over, it will stop them coming up. It's the best way of them not getting control of your garden. So every time you go in the garden, you can find something to do all the time. Even a small garden like mine, you have always something every day, something different to do, or things to hoe, things of interest that are coming up every day. So always very, very interesting. Even though it's a small garden, it's a very, very high maintenance garden because of the plants that I've got in it. I've got some camellias in, which are the pink flowers. There are rhododendrons, Oasis, which all are a little bit inclined to be on the Japanese side because the Japanese gardens have got all of those in. Bamboo, of course, which is a big feature in a Japanese garden because it's very tranquil. It's lovely to see it blowing in the breeze. It's very, very nice and relaxing, especially if you've got it by water. I'm on an estate with 20 properties, and this is probably the most noise that you'll hear in this garden during the day. It's very, very quiet, very peaceful, very tranquil, and I call this my little oasis. There's nothing better than getting up in the mornings and getting my cup of coffee and sitting down by the patio, and when it's sunny that's even better. And it's very, very satisfying garden. Very happy in my garden. This is a picture of Peter and I when we first met. We'd been together for 20 years, and when I met him, he was actually designing Japanese lanterns with a friend of his in Borsley Green. I was then still quite a keen gardener, so I knew that he was a keen gardener. His house, he got a big house, and he had polytunnels with all sorts of plants in. So it was a big help to me because I knew that he liked gardening and I liked gardening, so we've got a lot in common. So he redesigned this back garden and put quite a lot of his plants into this garden, which made it a little bit more interesting. Before, there was a lot of roses in and things that wasn't really of a lot of interest to him and I. So he changed things gradually, and that's really more or less how it looks now. Peter and I used to go out at weekends and used to go to a lot of trust houses where there were some beautiful gardens. We used to go down to Seaton, Devon at weekends because he got a bungalow down there, and we used to do a lot of walking and looking at gardens there. And we just found it's a big interest to both of us. And we used to go to Otter St Mary's while we were down in Seaton, to the nurseries there. So we'd spend a whole day there, bringing back all sorts of plants and bits and pieces, which we both really, really enjoyed doing. It'll be 3 years in July since Peter passed away. He was taken ill very, very quickly with secondary brain cancer. He was poorly for about 7 weeks. So obviously nothing got done for 7 weeks. And obviously when he passed away, I lost interest in the garden a little bit and had a bad winter. But then started to pick it back up again in the spring, and now I get a lot of satisfaction in the garden because I just feel that part of him is here with all the work that he put into it. So I just think it's a good thing for me to keep it up, and I get a lot of pleasure out of it. When Peter passed on, obviously we had the winter, so there wasn't much to do in the garden in the winter, and I wasn't really in the mood to do anything in any case. But then come the spring, the children decided to have some of the plants in containers to make it a bit easier for me to cope with this garden. So that made me then a little bit more interested because there wasn't quite so much to cope with. So that really gave me a new lease of life. So since then I've been adding a few more plants which are easier to look after. Most of the Japanese gardens are spring gardens anyhow, because the Japanese don't like a lot of flowers. Peter never liked flowers, apart from his camellias and his azaleas. He hated roses. He wouldn't have a rose in the garden at all because it didn't represent anything like Zen. He was very, very keen Japanese garden. He belonged to the Japanese Garden Society in Wolverhampton. He's got his name in black marble on a plaque outside. If you go there, there's huge stones, huge stones, and all his stones he got from Scotland. They were all ordered to size and shape and everything. And I believe the way it works out, the biggest stone there is what is called the father. Then there's another one, smaller, which is the mother. And then there's another one which is smaller, which is classed as the baby. And then all the gravel that's all done, all shaped like the sea, that's all meant to be the sea. There's other stones there that look like a turtle, and they all mean something. All the stones and everything in a Zen garden means something. When Peter died, obviously we had quite a bit of money, and obviously most of it was sent to the QE for secondary brain cancer department. But we also had money left that we bought a bench that is now in the court where I live in Peter's memory, and it gets used quite a bit, and that to me is lovely. I can see that from out my kitchen window. When you've been busy for 49 years bringing children up and grandchildren and your husbands and your partners and that, and then all of a sudden you're on your own, it's not easy. But this year has been a much better year for me. So obviously I'm coming to terms of leading a much quieter life. I've got my car, I can get out in my car, I jump on the bus, I go into Solihull for coffees with friends, I'm out with my children for parties, meals, all sorts of celebrations. So yes, so I'm very lucky really. I've had a lot of hard times in my life, and I've had a lot of good times in my life. And I'm very lucky. I've got my own home, which is just the right size for me. All my family are welcome any time to come. It's an open door. And as I say, I've got my garden, and I think class this as my little oasis. So I think that's just, I'm very lucky. If I do get some birds come down, and when it's raining, the rain going into the bird bath. And I do like it when the rain is on the garden. To me, that is very Japanese, and I do like that. Yeah, but I like all my garden really. Of course, with all gardens should be of an interest. You shouldn't really be able to look straight down a garden and see nothing. A garden you should be able to look at, and like this garden, you don't know what's round the other corner. That is how a garden should be. You should be able to walk up there and go around and think, oh, what's that? There's something else round this corner. And that's how gardens should be designed. Gardens shouldn't be just a straight lawn and things either side, no imagination gone into it at all. A garden should be something of interest as you're going along and thinking, oh, what's round that bend? Or what's round the other bend? And that's how a garden really should be looked at.